Welcome to the program. You can't make an omelette without breaking eggs. This universally accepted and widely used quotation or proverb means in order to achieve anything, certain sacrifices or disruptions are necessary. For our personal ideas, options, and agendas, some of us are misrepresenting this quotation attributed to the British politician Thomas Peronet Thompson in 1859. He echoed the French military officer and politician François Charette in 1742, who said, "On saura faire d'omelette sans casser des œufs." In preparation for our debate today on Press Hour, we decided to look up for the meaning of break and why the two great men used the word. Our finding is that when you break, you can repair. But from the rhetoric of some of our compatriots, the use of the proverb is misrepresented to mean destroy, destruction. When you destroy, you annihilate, you cannot repair. In local parlance, we say sagat sagat. That is, if I can't have it, no one else should. We cannot crush the eggs and expect to make an omelette from them. This year in Cameroon, in an election year, especially the presidential election, full of stakes, as we venture into the political activity, let us not lose sight of the fact that our future is the product of our past and our present. Let us sacrifice certain things that give us direct and personal benefit. Let us do this for the sake of peace. Let us do this for the sake of our children. Let us do this for our nation. Let us do this for humanity. I am Kilian Dandifon, and this is Press Hour in Yaoundé. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Press Hour and we are beaming live from Studio 4 of the CRT Production Center in Yaoundé. The program today has a topic which is related to the hottest, the most expected activity in Cameroon this year. Presidential election, we have another election, regional election, but topmost is the presidential election, as we said earlier, full of stakes. And last week, we talked about some of the stakeholders in the what is going to come up this year. That is, we received political party leaders on this set, and today we are receiving members of the civil society to see what role they have in the election that is coming up and how they can ensure at their level that there is peace in this country, because peace is good for everyone. We are talking about His Royal Majesty Njonkem Adino Awa III, and he is the king. We call them in the Cameroonian vocabulary the Fon of Mbengui. Mbe, you're welcome to Press Hour.
Welcome. Thank you, Kilian.
Yes, and we know that traditional rulers are actually the owners of the land. They don't go anywhere. Administrators go and come. Other people go and come. Traditional rulers are those who own the land. And some people even say they own the people. And the public administration only administers. Because administrations go, they come. That is why we brought the traditional ruler to this set. And we in Cameroon know how important they are when it comes to passing a message to their people. We have also brought to this set, for the same purpose, Reverend Bo John Beng, who is a senior pastor of PCC Sembok, Mendong in Yaoundé. When pastors speak, they speak sometimes representing God when they hold the Bible, when they hold the Quran in terms of the Muslim. And that's why we are bringing these people who have an influence over so many Cameroonians. Pastor Mbu John Beng, you are welcome to Press Hour.
Thank you, Killian.
You know that just one word from you has an impact on the people when you stand on the pulpit. And there are people who have been asking, should reverend pastors do partisan politics? I'm not going to ask you that question now. If you don't do politics, politics will come to their church.
Sure.
We are going to see how this is important in this. And we have Eugene Fongwa. He's a journalist, fundamentally, but he has ventured into so many things in life. He is climate and development policy analyst. He has been into media and development. He has so many other caps. I end here. Eugene, no one who knows you doubts what you can give out when you contribute. You're welcome to Press Hour once again.
Thanks so much, Killian. That's a lot to say about me, but it's a pleasure to be back here. It's been a while.
Thank you so much. Thank you for answering each time we call you. Dr. Desmond Gala is the national coordinator. He is the CEO of Civic Watch. From the name alone, you know he is a very important person in the civil society. He goes out to the streets, he sits wherever he is, and he preaches peace. He tells people not to get involved into hate speech. He has been doing that, educating people also when it comes to electoral year. If I make a mistake, Dr. Desmond, you correct me. You're welcome to this set.
Thank you, Killian. The pleasure is mine, and it's always a great pleasure having to share our field experience here. And I'm happy to also share this panel with the Reverend Whitmere and with my other brother, Eugene Fongwa, Tuesday.
Thank you for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, at this moment, we're going to watch Press Review. Is the first slot that we have on Press Hour. It actually sets the piece. Emmanuel Avenu has been reading the newspapers for Press Hour.
The 48th Annual Conference of Cameroonian Bishops may be over, but the major takeaway from their discussions continue to animate the press. The weekending bishops flare government for overtaxing Cameroonians, headlines The Horizon. To The Voice, bishops criticize excessive taxation while Article 66 remains unimplemented. The Median reports that for bad policies, poverty, inflation, and infrastructural degradation, Catholic bishops call Biya's regime so low. The same bishops who are lamenting in the dawn over rising cost of living and youth unemployment, a situation which pushes the bishops to declare Cameroon a decaying society in the Herald Tribune, as they urge citizens to stay hopeful in the face of adversities before imploring government in the Post newspaper to humble itself and dialogue with separatists. Bishops weep for Cameroon's stagnation 65 years after independence in the Guardian Post. At a time, a new bishop is appointed to the Yokaduma diocese in Cameroon Insider. Reverend John Ikema takes top job at the Cameroon Baptist Convention in the same paper, then anchors mandate on peace and development in municipal updates. Just when kidnapped Idabato Dio cries out to government again as he begs not to be abandoned to die in the Guardian Post, the Post weekend accusing that the Dio pleads for urgent help in a new audio record. Cameroon Acres on the same issue reports that the Dio begs government to release Nigerian detainees at the Boya prison for his safety. The Eden also carries the pleas of kidnapped Idabato Dio Ewane Roland, who begs government for rescue. Happening around the same time, retired SDO found dead in bedroom in the Median. The Guardian Post questions assassination or suicide. The paper reports that the bullet-shattered body of former Meme SDO was found in bedroom. To the Herald Tribune, retired SDO David Kulbut allegedly commits suicide. Breaking news belaying things, depression pushed the SDO Kulbut Aman to commit suicide. Before death equally strikes the Bilingualism Commission. The Guardian Post headlines David Abouem Tchoyi, Francophone statesman who fought for the resolution of Anglophone crisis, dies. Municipal Update simply writes, David Abouem Tchoyi, good night at 81, before moving tribute stream for time-honored statesman Abouem Tchoyi in The Voice. In-Depth News reports that the former Secretary General at the presidency died on his 81st birthday before presenting the life and death of the superscale senior administrator. Before the Bimbia Slave Trade Village development projects put local firm and population at daggers drawn in the Dawn newspaper. The Post reports that CEO of the local firm says Bimbia Slave Trade Project is a private government partnership to develop abandoned site to meet UNESCO's heritage standard. The Eden quotes the CEO's debunking allegations of a 50-year lease of the land to saying that the project is to develop and preserve the site's remnants. Then Finance Minister launches 2025 state budget in Boya in the Voice, with the Northwest set to get over 94 billion francs allocation in municipal updates. The National Communication Council then launches the Media Directory. Cameroon Insider presents reasons why massive voter participation is crucial. Until I come your way again, this is your Hour with the Press. And those were the papers for you.
Thank you so much, Emanuela. We can't wait to have another taste of press review come next Sunday, God willing. Yes, Eugene, you are the journalist, and the set is our tradition to call on the press person on the set to choose one of the topics discussed by the press, so we comment on before we go into our focus.
Thank you so much, Killian. I think what stands out is the passing of David Tchoyi. He was, I don't remember meeting him as a journalist, but you couldn't be a journalist in Cameroon without encountering him. And I think when you listened to him, you went away with the impression that he was someone who was very grounded. When he spoke, you could get a sense that it was carefully thought out. He knew what he was saying. And I think he made quite an effort to be as honest and represent the truth as possible. And because of that, sometimes his views were perceived as contrary to the dominant narrative around some of the topical issues that were affecting our country. And that's how I would remember him, someone who was not shy of holding opinions that were not necessarily the dominant opinion, or to be a little more sarcastic, the safe opinion to hold.
We couldn't say it better than what you've said. You actually knew this man, you know him. He's been guest on Press Hour severally. Each time I called him, if he was available, he came to Press Hour. And when he passed on, I was in my neighborhood somewhere in Yaoundé, and I wanted to talk about someone I personally had contacts with in public and private places, and thought I was important. One person who is in the neighborhood, whom I least expected to know him, showed me his contact in the phone. And I said, oh, this was a great man, but very humble, that he made friends with everyone in society. Yes, Dr. Desmond, what do you make of, what tribute do you have?
Thank you, Killian. And my deepest condolences to the immediate family, but to also the bigger family of the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism, but also to us as Cameroonians. A great statesman has gone. I have had the opportunity to interact with David Abouem Tchoyi on several cases, particularly because we work on the questions of hate speech and divisive language within the country. And time without number, like Eugene said, he was not afraid to deviate from the popular discourse of there is no problem. But he faced the problem head on and said, look, this is where the problem is. I think that on different occasions, be it within professional realms, but also within personal engagements, I found in him someone who was very level-headed and was not even actually pressurized to give opinions that were not his. So if you push questions to him or ideas to him on open access, he would shut up and then tell you that those are not my views and these are my views.
Exactly.
Even given that he was actually working at a very high position in government. And I think today we've lost a great man, and it's a challenge to many other young people coming up to look up to this kind of examples that have been set up.
A man of integrity.
By him, the questions of integrity and I would say objectivity and fairness. Eugene would come to those concepts if we were talking about media. Yes, Abouem Tchoyi, it's a great loss to the nation.
Mbe, the fun Mbengui will have the last word. I want to go to Reverend Mbu John. How did you know the late David Abouem Tchoyi?
Well, to be frank, I knew him by name and the position he held. But when it came to this period of crisis, upheavals, especially from the 90s, I think he contributed quite much. I know there were controversies over his identity, whether Francophone, Anglophone, but I think he was quite positive, and he belonged to the old regime of a time when Cameroonians actually felt they were patriotic to their country. So I think he's quite to be remembered.
Thank you so much, Mbe. You have the last word on the passing on of a great man, David Abouem Tchoyi.
Killian, just as Eugene said, I for one I'm somebody that was not really acquainted with him, but from the great works that we've gotten, we cannot pass without appreciating what he did for the nation, and we thank him for what he had really done, and we say we are very sorry. May his soul rest in peace.
Rest in peace indeed, ladies and gentlemen. This is Press Hour. We are broadcasting from Yaoundé, CRTV Production Center, and this is Studio 4. Our question today is, can civic society ensure that we have peace in the election, the top job that we have in Cameroon in 2025? We know most of the time political leaders, other stakeholders are accused of manipulating the civil society, of course, of manipulating the masses. The people I have on the set today are people who are directly impactful when it comes to the behavior of the man in the street, of even those who are in top jobs. That's why we decided to take on this. Our aim is that at the end of the elections, through our own contributions in Press Hour, we should have helped people to know that peace is good for everyone, common good for the masses. That's our target. Now, the person who is of the Civic Watch Civil Society is Dr. Desmond Ngala. What role, generally speaking, we should start from there, does the civil society have in controlling the behavior of people, especially during election period?
Thank you, Killian. I just want to do a disclaimer here that I'm not speaking in the name of national civil society organizations in Cameroon, but I will speak from the experience that we've had on the field and what I see also from this space. I think the first role will be definitely education. We've had instances in this country in which many people have lost trust, not only in the electoral process, but also in everything that has to do with governance. And the civil society has and plays a very vital role in pushing people into getting into a very civic dialogue. But also the civil society has as responsibility to hold, I would say, those who are managing state affairs accountable to the promises they make, but also to the discourses they put on the public space. We remind them that this is a national thing, and this is just one of the roles that the civil society actually also plays in accompanying them. But definitely, the civil society has, has as main role also to provide a platform for dialogue. We've seen in the past years in Cameroon and elsewhere, the civil society has been that space in which conflicting parties, conflicting views have come together to actually exchange ideas, opinions, most especially when these opinions were contrary to one another. And the last one I would tell you is the civil society has the responsibility to resolve conflicts or problems when they do actually occur. We've not only seen civil society organizations resolve, but we've seen them propose lasting solutions to problems that did existed in particular communities around the nation. Walking through this, we will discover that the civil society also plays the role of a connector between the people and those that are governing, because they are actually in the neighborhoods, they are actually with the people. But yet they cannot do this in a vacuum, which means that they do this in accompanying and as well as working with state officials and state authorities.
Yes, there are two areas, sectors in society: the civil society and the opposition, political leaders, for example, the political parties. These are two sectors that people say if they are strong in a society, the checks and balances you're talking about will be ensured. Governance will be ensured. So many other areas will be ensured. And those people think that civil society and the opposition in Cameroon is dead. You will not answer this question now. We'll come to this later, because you talk about their role, and this is what some people who are critical, I don't know, you can judge them. You can assess them yourselves, whether they are right or wrong, but that voice is coming up so strong in the country. Now, first of all, we'll talk about the role of the civil society. More contribution to what Dr. Desmond said, Eugene. About the rule first. We'll come to...
we're going to, I think he's outlined quite elaborately what that role should be. But if you were to sum up all of those roles, you find that the civil society actually serves as a counterpower. Because generally speaking, society is built around power blocks. There's the political power, the economic power, and usually these are powers that are driven by narrow self-interest, political interest, economic interest, and the civil society often steps in as the voice of the voiceless in almost the same way that the media plays kind of the same role that the media play, to try to bring marginal groups and highlight the interest and the needs of those marginal groups, so that as these powers play out, these marginal groups are not receiving the fallout of this power play, but also that their needs and interests are not left out. Because when the corporate community is pursuing their interest, that's what they're looking at. When the political group is pursuing their interest, that's what they're looking at. And the civil society, and which could be defined very broadly to also include traditional authorities and the church, really serves as that voice for those who can potentially and very often are left out of this power play and only serve as recipients of the fallouts, mostly the fallouts of this power play. And that's a very crucial role, especially when you're moving into an electoral period where sometimes the needs, the views, and the aspirations of the masses can be dominated by those of these powerful interests, the lobbies that shape policies and determine who govern, those who have the means to shape the direction of the country, whether through the use of political power or even sometimes financial power. And without the civil society, it becomes very, very difficult. The second thing I may add is that the civil society helps to create a society of plurality. Because if you have only few nodes in a society, it's very hard for the right checks and balances to exist. But if you had multiple centers of power, and that is what the civil society tries to do, again, almost like the media tries to do, coming in as a fourth estate to the dominant three, then they're able to ensure that there is plurality and that the range of choices that are available to the masses is expanded, so that we don't live in a bubble where we think that we have only a choice between one or the other. but the civil society helps to open up that space and create the conditions for a multiplicity of ideas and a multiplicity of solutions, especially when it comes to promoting peace and things like that.
Thank you so much for that elaborate explanation on the role of civil society, taking from where Dr. Desmond ended. Now, I'm going to ask you, Reverend John, not to give us the role of civil society. When Eugene speaks, he talks about different power plans and talks about some under your own section like the church. What they have from that is fallouts. When he talks about fallouts, it's not positive. That's exactly what he means. Some people take fallouts to mean gains. It's actually you take what you do not want, and sometimes it is very disagreeable. That's what Eugene is talking about. Now, how do you control people under you, generally in the church, to take part in the electoral process, for example, to make sure that what they get is not what they did not bargain for? And how do you, what is your role to make sure that even when it comes, they do that, they take it with an olive branch, with peace, especially the church knows how to go for peace?
Well, thank you. Basically, the church, under the canopy of Christ, takes everybody as equal, working with everybody as if he or she were a brother or sister. So we are not partisan and we don't really talk politics. But the fact is, we try as much as possible to cause the people to know that it is their civic obligation to participate, whether to govern or to be governed. And so in this, we see equity in the way of respect for different persons and their interests. Fallout is not a language acquainted with the church, and so I cannot really talk about that. But we would say, whatever the outcome of the elections, take it and approach it peacefully. In other words, it's good to participate actively so that if finally you win, then you can share. If you lose, you still know you are a citizen. And so the government, we believe, is not biased. The government, a body of persons coming together to work in the interest of the nation. So if we aspire as a nation, then as Christians, we see each other on a very equal basis.
Yes, some people argue today, like I said earlier, the voice is getting stronger, that the church, people in the church cannot sit, fold their arms, and watch others lead in a way that is not pleasant. To us, we cannot say to God, because only God knows what he expects. But for us in the society, we have had some people from the church, voices, authoritative voices from the church, making some statements that resemble those from the common person. We are not saying you should make such statements. But what do you do when you sit and you see, for example, there is corruption? You just say you pray, or is there something else that you do apart from just praying to make sure that an ill in society, as people who represent, who are a moral authority, could say something?
Yes, the church would not, first the church believes that all who are in a position of authority, the leaders, are put by God. But if you follow from the Old Testament especially, the prophets were there. So the church has that prophetic role to come out and speak, especially where incidents of corruption, favoritism, and other negative traits come out. The church is not as such just tacit. The church speaks out and condemns acts of discrimination or corruption. Yes, because that is what Christ came for, and that's why he was crucified. So the church plays an active role in seeing that the politics of the country runs at least in an even way. Yes. So the church is not tacit. The church speaks out. It's the role of the church too.
Yes, just I will not want to take you to task on that. The authority that God gives to all the rulers, is there an area in that authority that clarifies to the people that, yes, I've given every ruler has authority from God, but that if he doesn't go according to the principles of the Bible, people should not follow? Is there anything, any sort of thing under that command from God, giving authority to the leaders?
Yes, for sure, the examples in the Bible clarify. Take, for example, the first king Saul. When he was humble to God, obedient, he did rule the people well. But when he took certain aspects that were not supposed to be, for example, building up idols and other things for himself, God had to bring him down and took some other person in his place. So God puts the leader there, but God can easily undo the leader where the leader fails to meet up with the aspirations of the people.
Thank you very much. When I come back to you, I will just ask you what you are doing to make sure that in 2025 you talk to your Christians that as you said, education. Dr. Desmond said that education is the first thing. The church also educates people, like you said. They should get involved and carry out their civic rights by going to vote their leaders. But when I come back, I will ask you what actually you do and what you're planning to do to make sure that when it comes to your own level, you should tell your people that there should be peace. Okay. Like the President of the Republic said, before, during, and after the elections. We have 2 elections in 2025, presidential elections and regional elections. Now to His Royal Majesty, the Njokem Adino Awa, the 3rd Fon of Mbengwi. In our different traditions in Africa has so many traditions. The traditional ruler is a kind of earthly representation of God to them, which means that you have a lot of authority over your people. So what do you tell your people when it comes to elections? Like we have elections in 2025. What have you already been telling them, and what will you be telling them? We want you to share that with us here.
Killian, just as the adage you started with says that you cannot make an omelette without breaking an egg. The society in which we live today, like traditional rulers and what we are experiencing, we know that people have different types of ideas, different kinds of ideas. And these ideas does not necessarily mean they are bad. They might be moving the right direction, or might need some other people to guide them to see how they can move in the right direction.
Very true, Mbe. That's a society should be a pluralistic society. We mean that people must not reason the same way. Others should accept, some should accept the divergence in the ideas of others, so they should disagree to agree on their focus. Yes, we are listening.
That's true, Killian. Just you see, we follow up with what Reverend said. We understand that elections are coming, yes, but it does not give the platform for our elites or the people in the society to come with loggerheads where they will have enmity within them. We understand that the ideas will always come. We know that during this period, all of us are trying to see that we can build our country. We can see that the leaders that we are striving to choose are leaders that will be able to represent our ideas. So therefore, we as traditional rulers are trying much as we can to see that we can sensitize the population, we can sensitize the society to be able to choose or to be able to look at the ideas of those that they want to be at the helm of the society wisely.
But there is something in Cameroon, particularly I'm talking about Cameroon, which I know so well. Politics now in our traditional societies has made people, brother and sister, become enemy because they belong to different political parties. I think that this should be a very difficult thing for a traditional ruler like you to handle. You have some who are in the ruling, in the different opposition parties, some who do not even belong to any of these, but they have ideas that make them almost become enemies to the point that you don't know whether they are people from the same house, family, village, clan, tribal. How do you handle these type of ideas? These are you should have that in your kingdom.
It is normal. There must be this cross-section of people with different ideas, but as traditional rulers, we always preach peace amongst people, because they are most often during election periods like this, you have families that the husband is going to vote for another political party, the wife is going for another political party, the children too are going, but they still unite back in the house, which means there should be that peace among the homes, and we should always try to live together as one people, no matter the idea, no matter how what differences we have in terms of our ideologies. So we always try to see that people should know and to understand the fact that living together first is necessary.
So what the phone is telling us is that you don't tilt towards any particular political lineage.
No, as traditional rulers, we don't tilt to any particular side. We understand that the people we are governing are those that have the choice to make. If they make the wrong choice today, they should be ready to receive the outcome tomorrow. So the only thing we can do is to tell them to choose wisely and to understand the people that they are choosing, because most of these people are people that in our communities, like for instance, if we want to look at the municipal elections, you cannot, most of the mayors and the councillors that are representing the people in the councils are people that they all know in the community. So it's nothing like you should better go and choose who you know is always there for the people to speak the truth. Mm-hmm. Because I, as a traditional ruler, will also go to the polls for election, but it is not my vote that will determine that you must be the winning candidate. Mm-hmm. It is the vote, it is the collective vote of all the people in the community that will determine who will be the one, who not to be the one to.
Yes, Dr. Desmond, tell us what you do, because I have been invited before to some seminars that you organize, particularly pertaining to elections, how people should behave. What have you been doing as an organization to educate people? That's the first word you use here. What actually have you been doing?
Thank you, Killian. And I generally, our strategy has always been a bottom-top approach, thinking that most of the masses who are out there, the population that is out there, needs lots of accompaniment to actually excel in the task they're doing. We've been educating the public on the different vices that are in the community. It's no secret in Cameroon that most of us, I would say most of us, say even I vote, even I don't vote, I don't see the need or the change that it will bring. But this has gradually been changing in the past years. If you look, you see many more people getting into registration offices to pick up their voters' cards. This tells you that something has been done in the background. We've been actually educating people, but also we know that there is always divergence of views when it comes to politics, and that's why, like Mbe was saying, we'd have the same family, husband and wife would choose different political parties, and we've actually pushed people to understand that the society of difference, we live in a society of difference, where political opinions could be different, where social norms could be different, but we could still live up to the test of time. We've also been actually engaging and doing campaigns with people to understand that political slangs or political violence that happens within political realms should actually reduce, and why not stop? Killian, you know there are people who from particular political party, they're not even served in particular government places, in particular private places, in particular churches, in particular in taxis. The common man is complaining about this, and what we've tried to do is engage all the stakeholders and bring them to know. Hate speech has also always been a very on the rise during electoral period, and that is why during electoral period you have new terminologies that would develop, and for close to 2 years now we've been working to address some of the solutions to these elections that are coming. It's not today, because the human mind does not change overnight. It's something that they do actually practice, and we are happy today that we've had the support of the media like you, of young people out there, of academic institutions, of researchers that are out there, of policymakers, but also of the government and international partners to craft ways. And some of these ways we've been crafting in the past years have been looking at what should be said and what should not actually be said in times of debates and public discourses like this, but who should actually vote. I tell you, many people still think that in Cameroon there is no need to go to the polls, and that is the reason why we're there, to tell you, if you don't actually participate in choosing who will be your leaders tomorrow, you cannot complain about the kind of leadership they give you, because you cannot even hold them to task, for you were not actually part of the process to actually elect them and choose them now.
Certain things that the civil society have to do for the people is that when bills are high, people pay so much for certain things, people are abused for the bills of basic communities, or those things that they cannot live without, some prices. Civil society should come out in one way or the other and make. But apart from the Ministry of Trade that is doing so much to control the prices, I don't see so much of the civil society. So that's why some people think, and they say it aloud, that in Cameroon, where is the civil society?
Killian, I must permit me differ with you. The first thing I would say is that the civic space in Cameroon has been shrinking. It's continuously reducing, and there's a lot of fear in the atmosphere when you come to the civic space. Fear from competition that happens within the civil society. I will start from our own, but also fear from the party that is on the other side, which is the government. I don't think that civil society has been that quiet in Cameroon. And that's why in the past months, people even know the term civil society and can define and identify some of them. It tells you this is 5-10 years back. We didn't have this. They're doing the job. The second thing I would say is that most civil society organizations in Cameroon are created within a particular context. We will see that a bulk of them are hanging around peace and development. Peace, not development per se. We're talking about societal things. How many, we have the ministry in charge of civil societies in Cameroon, how many of them there can we count that have as mandate to respond to these kinds of things? This is something that we should actually caution and coach also for people who are looking actually to respond to this problem. The civil society is not dead in Cameroon. On the contrary, it's actually taking shape. And this shape needs to be guided, yes, but also we need to actually create a favorable playing ground for the civil society to excel and accompany the state in getting its mandate done.
Eugene, what will you tell our people to do so that we have calm, we have peace in Cameroon in 2025, election year?
Thank you. The first thing, maybe let me start reflecting to say that we often make a mistake to think that peace is something we can work towards. Peace is actually the outcome of different sets of actions. It's not. So if you have a peace program, you could actually complete that program without necessarily ever encountering the concept and notion of peace, because it's a product of a wide range of things. And I think one of the things that needs to happen in Cameroon urgently, it's that people need to accept that as a society we cannot afford to be a society that does not disagree. Because it's only out of disagreement that society moves forward. Imagine that we had only a single narrative. We only believed one thing. We only knew one thing. We only stood behind one person. As a society, we are not going anywhere. If you look at history, every progress had come because people have been able to break the shell and expand the possibilities of what is possible. So disagreement should be something that is celebrated rather than considered to be anti-society. And if unless we are at that point, that me and you can sit here and we can disagree over a lot of things, but we can remain friends. If we don't get to that point, I'm not sure that as a country we are ever going to get to a point where we can pretend that we are able to live together. I take the example, and I've been monitoring this and reflecting on it, the images that came out of the President Obama and President Trump sitting and sharing a laugh. And the response on social media told me that people really haven't understood that people can disagree
and sit and eat together
and not be enemies.
Yeah.
It's possible to disagree and not be enemies. And I think that's the point where we need to get to. If we don't, whatever else we do falls along the way. And so when we get into these elections, we have to remember that there's going to be a lot of things that we don't like.
Exactly.
There are going to be a lot of things we don't agree with. But I don't think there is any of those things
that
should be so important that we are willing to destroy everything we've built.
Like you said, break. Coming back to those words we started this program with. You break to repair and do better, not destroy. Thank you so much. Reverend John,
Yes.
We want to know what you will do as a man on the pulpit to ensure that we don't have to destroy. We have probably to break, or if there is nothing to break, we build on peace.
Yeah, exactly. Peace, I think, is it Martin Luther Jr. said peace is not necessarily the absence of tension, but rather it's the presence of justice. And so the church contains all the parties. This church is a sea containing all the citizens from the different parties and diverse groups, ethnic and otherwise. And so in talking to them, we try to sensitize and encourage them to, in fact, fulfill their civic responsibility. But in doing this, they should understand that we are all brothers and sisters of
one country,
of a common fate or future.
Okay.
And so they should be tolerant of each other. They should, as much as possible, if they really want change, they should go in and register. It is true, the Cameroon elections somehow has sounded like a saga, because there is a supposition that whether you vote or you don't vote, the outcome is already known. But this may not be true always, because records are kept, and over time, God himself is a time player. We may come, live and go, but over time, history will prove what has been. If we go back to 1992-93 elections,
92.
It is said the party incumbent won, but still there are voices that show that perhaps it's the opposition that won. So I think today citizens, while approaching the non-violent form of making sure they work with each other as brothers and sisters, they should do everything to caution against falsehood. Social media today is a very dangerous element in our society.
And it's going to be very, very, very important to see what happens in the social media in the elections that are coming up.
I think
concerning what you just said about the 1992 elections, what you are saying is exactly what's happening, what's being said. But what we also heard is that because of that controversy, time was taken for the recount of the votes of 1992, and the incumbent, the President of the Republic, won by about 200,000 votes, which means that the people who were claiming to have won, they were not wrong because they were not very far behind.
Okay.
So that is the public discourse that we're talking about here. Now, we're going to talk to Mbena. Mbe, you're going to talk to your people. Talk to your people about this year. It may sound repetitive, but you have to talk to your people about what's coming up. This should be the beginning of the campaign, that when you go to the palace, they should wait for you. You're going to receive, like you said before, when the people, we know in the Northwest, you have the CPDM, you have the SDF, you have the NUDP, you have some other parties will have
EPFs.
the PFs and the rest. And you're saying that when you sit in the palace, you receive all of them. Start the message right now.
Chilean, well, what I want to say to my people is that we all should go out there and vote and take our decision, because the future of tomorrow lies in our hands. I know that during the period of registration, we all went out and registered. This is now the time for us to take the decision and to take the right decision, because if we don't make the right decisions now, we'll regret tomorrow. So I'm pleading and begging that all those that have registered should try as much as possible to see that they should vote, because it is their right to do so.
Thank you, Desmond and Eugene. We're going to narrow down to respect of institutions, respect of the results of the election, because this is generally where trouble comes in.
Yes.
How will this be important? The respect of the Constitution, the respect of the institutions of the country, and the fact that people have to learn to be in a position of what we call fair play. If you have no one, you should accept, and as it's done in other places, you come out and you congratulate your opponent.
Kilian, the first thing we also need to do as a nation is that we need to live in present time. We're no longer living in the 1900s, living in the 2000s. We're living in an age of new forms of media, particularly social media, and where virtuality is the order of the day. And if we want to talk about respect of institutions, we need to also be very cognizant of the fact that the people who, irrespective of the cautioning you would give, will actually go to because of I would say, the comfort of the keyboard or the virtuality in this respect, this institution. So institutions need to know this and work towards this. The second thing is that elections are just one part of community development, I would say, nation building. Yes, we're choosing people who are going to take the destiny of the country and take it further. But we should know that as a country, whether you win or you lose, we need to respect the results, because we need to give trust in this. And that's one of the roles that we're doing. Civil society is building trust between all the election stakeholders, be it those who are actually managing the elections themselves. Thirdly, we also want to actually advise, and we've been singing this for the past years, that it's not because we are from the government. I think the government exists also to work in relationship with the civil society on one hand, so that community can advance. When we see at some point and civil society perceive like there's a heavy hand coming down on civil society, justly or unjustly, we see some of them pull back, and it creates a vacuum for those who do not really understand how this nation should run or how affairs of the state run. And lastly, Killian, we cannot talk about respect of institutions if these institutions don't respect the very people who actually voted for them to actually sit there. We will not go down out there and lie to the public that all of these institutions. Have you been served in a public office in Cameroon lately?
I have always been served, but
yeah, because maybe you are Killian and you anchor press hour and you have a name. Yeah. But what I'm saying is that state agents, private entity agents, those who are out there, who are serving the public, should know that they're not doing us a favor, but it's a responsibility, it's a right they have to actually render to people. You get to institutions that are supposed to actually represent and incarnate the state, the government, you, the people, who you are. And you're considered as someone I would call, quote unquote, an outcast, someone who's not supposed to be there, someone who is disturbing them, the peace and the tranquility of being on the social media, of playing the game.
Thank you.
Sitting there
Thank you. We have less than 3 minutes to go. Thank you for that contribution. And on that point, we are advising our people never to stop to report such behavior, because we accept it. It actually exists in public places, in public offices in Cameroon. If you are abused in any office, today, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, next year, all those instances, there's always somewhere. Do not fail to continue to report, because your report will fall in the hands of the right person to solve that problem one day. Yes, Eugene, talking about institutions, I want you to say something about the way social media can, especially social media, can be smarter and give people the wrong information and even almost derail them before the institutions can.
Thank you. I think social media has been faulted a little too much for the wrongs of society, broadly speaking, because social media is only, as the expression rightly says, a medium where it's you and me who are expressing ourselves. So I think the first
but there are ingenious people who actually manipulate others using that. That's what we are saying. What you're saying is correct, but people know that that's.
If you allowed me to complete my thought, maybe you wouldn't have had to jump in.
Okay.
So what social media does is only amplify the actions of me and you. It provides a vehicle through which we can manipulate. So there are a number of things you can do. If you're transparent with the electoral process, we're talking about elections, if everyone could believe in the institutions to deliver credible electoral results, it will be very difficult for anyone to use social media as a vehicle for misinformation. Misinformation becomes powerful when there is already existing in society a heavy dose of mistrust in the system. So the first thing for me is to build trust in our electoral process. And I don't think we have done enough to build trust in our electoral system. It doesn't matter, I can tell you it doesn't matter today whether the elections are free and fair. As long as people don't trust the process, they're going to contest it.
Thank you.
Lastly,
when you look at time,
yes.
You know,
lastly, I think you mentioned should people accept the results of the election. I just want to say that rejecting the result of an election is a right to the parties in the election. You can't impose on people to accept what they believe to be wrong. But there are mechanisms and the processes that can be followed to arrive at the truth. Again, we need to ensure that those systems are robust so that if I say the elections were fraudulent, it can be demonstrated openly and transparently so that the rest of the public that's listening to whoever is contesting the election can be convinced.
Thank you so much.
That the allegations were unfounded. You cannot declare allegations unfounded. You have to prove that they were unfounded.
Time check. We have used all our time on Press R today. Thank you very much. The Fon of Mbengui, thank you. The Fon of Mbengui, His Royal Majesty in Jonkeb Adino Awa III. Thank you, Reverend Bull John Mbeng, who is the senior pastor of PCC Simbok Mendong in Yaoundé. Thank you, Eugene Fongwa, the journalist, a climate and development policy analyst. Thank you, Dr. Desmond Gala, National Coordinator and CEO of Civic Watch. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. But you can watch this program if you missed out on anything on Monday at 2:30 on CRTV Premium, on CRTV News after the news in French. On Wednesday, you can also conveniently watch Press Hour. Thank you on behalf of the production team for watching.